faithfully delivering value, exploring global literary treasures. Hi, this is Sally's Book Club. Today we'll be exploring Joseph Heller's Catch-22. Published in 1960s America, Catch-22 became a campus sensation, with every college student owning a copy of Joseph Heller's masterpiece. This novel established Black humor as a legitimate literary genre in American literature, securing its permanent status. Though Heller wrote two subsequent novels, none ever matched Catch-22's brilliance. When asked why he never wrote a better book than Catch-22, Heller retorted, "Has anyone?" His confidence was justified. Catch-22 ranks 7th on Modern Library's 100 Best Novels and remains a BBC reader favorite. Stephen King praised it as one of the two greatest American novels of the past 50 years. After its 1980s Chinese publication, writer Wang Shuo found more resonance in Heller than Kundera, while readers described it as laughter turning to contemplation, then dread. This reaction perfectly aligns with Heller's intent to make people laugh first, then look back in horror at what they laughed at. The term Catch-22 has entered global lexicon, representing an inescapable paradoxical dilemma, absurd yet fatefully unavoidable. What mysterious force embodies such contradiction? How does this relate to the military regulation? Let's explore these questions through the novel's lens. First, understanding the infamous regulation itself. What story does this novel tell? Set during 214 on a Mediterranean island west of Italy, where a U.S. bomber squadron carries out missions, the story unfolds through surreal bureaucratic madness. Characters confront the infamous regulation's paradoxical logic. If you're insane, you can avoid combat, but requesting exemption proves your sanity. Our protagonist Yossarian is a bombardier. Initially patriotic and optimistic, he diligently completed every bombing mission. But as the war dragged on, he began questioning the mission's purpose. Realizing dying wouldn't serve his country, only Colonel Cathcart's ambitions. His doubts stemmed not from cowardice, but from discovering a horrifying truth. Headquarters kept increasing mandatory mission counts, making survival mathematically impossible. The regulation stated pilots could go home after completing set missions. New recruits would replace them in rotation. But Colonel Cathcart kept raising requirements to boost his reputation, trapping all personnel. But he even treated rising casualty numbers as achievements, desperate for Saturday Evening Post fame. Yossarian's final disillusionment came realizing the bombing missions served corporate greed, not national interest. Ordermaster Milo created Enterprises, turning the war into profitable marketplace, starting with eggs, expanding to bombing contracts. He contracted with both Allied and Axis forces, profiting regardless of battle outcomes. His operations escalated to using German planes for logistics and bombing his own squadron, all protected by complicit officers. Milo faced no consequences as superiors were shareholders in his enterprise. Witnessing this complete moral collapse, Yossarian became obsessed with survival above all else. He realized obeying orders meant certain death. Survival required radical self-preservation measures. After each bombing run, he'd frantically flee the combat zone. He'd disable comms to abort missions or feign illnesses for hospital stays. He even attempted insanity pleas before outright refusing missions. His liver condition was carefully maintained, just severe enough for hospitalization but not medical scrutiny. He manipulated his condition by avoiding liver-healthy fruits while enjoying hospital care. Hospitalized soldiers were assigned to censor personal correspondence. Yossarian found the censorship duty unbearably tedious within days. He developed increasingly elaborate letter-altering games to cope. Some letters had all adjectives and adverbs ruthlessly excised. Others became linguistic puzzles through selective redaction and forged signatures. His antics eventually attracted military investigators, not for tampering, but because fabricated signatures confused army records. This raised security alarms. This episode reveals the complete erosion of soldiers' privacy rights. Arbitrary censorship faced no opposition in this system. Heartfelt letters became meaningless paperwork to censors. Yossarian then tried exploiting mental health regulations. He approached the flight surgeon, the authority to ground mentally unfit personnel. The doctor cited Catch-22. Anyone trying to avoid combat is by definition sane. Thus, claiming insanity proved sanity, trapping him in endless missions. Yossarian realized only the willing could be considered insane. The ultimate paradox, refusing danger proved sanity, dooming him to continue. Thus, the bombing missions remained inescapable. He marveled at Catch-22's diabolical brilliance, a trap without escape. The regulation's absurdity extended far beyond surface interpretation. Once Yossarian miraculously completed 40 missions before quota changes, the doctor revealed, completion permits but doesn't guarantee discharge. Commanders must approve all releases per Catch-22. Thus, commanders could infinitely extend service through circular logic. In Rome's ruins, Yossarian found brothels emptied by military decree. Displaced residents wandered like ghosts through familiar streets. He demanded of an old woman, "What right do they have?" "There must be some legal justification," she replied. Catch-22 grants them unlimited power. "Explain this regulation," Yossarian insisted. "Show me the actual text," he challenged. "A regulation states its existence need not be proven." A novel describes Yossarian's seething, impotent rage, existential despair tone, yet this changed nothing. The collective belief gave it terrifying power. Without physical form, it couldn't be fought or destroyed. Other characters embodied similar absurdities. Major banned visitors, but only when absent from his office. Colonel Korn forbade questions, except from those who never asked. These paradoxes mirrored Catch-22's flawless illogic, airtight in their absurdity, leaving no loopholes. The officers had mastered Catch-22's essence completely. Remarkably, the novel contains no battlefield carnage or Nazi atrocities. The novel focuses on military life and operations on the island. Heller stated, "I'm not interested in war themes. In Catch-22, I explore personal dynamics within bureaucratic power structures. The war becomes background to systemic oppression of individuals. War destroys not just lives, but human conscience and morality." Yossarian's friend Clevenger, a teenage recruit, faces fabricated charges. The major interrupts. "Don't interrupt, address properly." "Yes, sir," Clevenger complies. "Don't interrupt," the major counters. Kafkaesque rule enforcement. Another officer forbids using "sir," trapping Cleveland in protocol errors. The absurd trial becomes linguistic entrapment through semantic games. Hilarian logic delivery. Clevenger was guilty by virtue of being accused. Guilt is proven through conviction itself, the text concludes. Even the chaplain faces charges for unknown crimes yet to be determined. These scenes show complete denial of rational discourse. Language becomes meaningless under bureaucratic tyranny. Catch-22 entered English lexicon as the ultimate paradox. The term symbolizes inescapable systemic traps. Heller later expanded its meaning to political economic contexts. Modern bureaucracies continue manifesting Catch-22 logic. For instance, the Freedom of Information Act requires agencies to disclose information, except when they don't. Ultimately, the agencies decide what information gets released. Welfare systems demand continuous work for benefits, creating perpetual eligibility paradoxes. Life abounds with Catch-22 situations when you look closely. How do entry-level workers gain experience if jobs require experience? If kindergartens require entrance exams, where does early education begin? Final interpretation rights reserved. Clauses mirror Catch-22's undefined authority. Back to Yossarian. Failed insanity pleas led to outright mission refusal. She hitched ride to Rome on Milo's plane, wandering its streets. Everywhere, rape, disease, murder, pervasive fear. Sirens blared. Arrested for lacking travel permit in Rome. Ironically charged for paperwork violation, not his actual rebellions. Colonel Cathcart offered deal. Court-martial or glorified discharge. Praise our leadership publicly and go home a hero. Yossarian hesitated at the crossroads. Refusal meant military trial and punishment. Compliance promised safe return with honors. But Yossarian ultimately rejected the deal because he knew this would be deceiving his comrades and the public. Trusting Colonel Cathcart would only lead to more unnecessary deaths. Yossarian valued his own life, which made him respect others' lives equally. He chose a third path, escaping to neutral Sweden through stormy seas. The dangerous journey embodied his creed: live authentically or die trying. Did Yossarian reach freedom or perish? The novel remains ambiguous. Readers insist he survived. Some even posted Yossarian lives at ABC headquarters. His survival symbolizes enduring rebellion against absurdity. 33 years later, Heller confirmed his survival in a sequel, relieving readers. Heller vowed, Yossarian lives. If he dies, it won't be by my hand. This pledge affirms enduring spirit of resistance against absurdity. Why does this anti-hero resonate so deeply with readers? As Bombardier, he's no traditional hero, avoids sacrifice, disobeys orders. Cowardly disobedient, his final act was mere desertion. Even his name, Yossarian, sounds unheroic and suspicious. Unlike crisp American names like Cathcart, his foreign name suggests outsider status. Yet his power lies in chaotic world principles, unwavering belief in life's sanctity and spiritual integrity. From fallen comrades, he learned humans are matter. Thrown from windows, they fall. Burned, they combust. Buried, they decay. As material beings, preserving life becomes paramount, but spiritless matter equals garbage. Survival requires free will and integrity. Yossarian represents the anti-hero archetype. What defines this? Flawed, ordinary people questioning assumed virtues through imperfect resistance. They challenge traditional values through accidental rebellion and deconstruction. Published nearly 15 years post 242, when more trauma still haunted society, shattered beliefs left generations questioning life's meaning and self-validation. McCarthyism and Cold War tensions amplified collective anxiety. People lived like ephemeral marks, embracing nihilism and excess. Behind debauchery lay fragile psyches and existential void. War revealed institutional might versus individual fragility. Catch-22 gave voice to suppressed rage through dark humor and relatable rebellion. It became generational manifesto by blending satire with profound truth. Thus concludes our exploration of the novel's plot. We've unveiled Catch-22's essence and Yossarian's enduring appeal. Now let's examine the novel's narrative style. Initial reviews were polarized, adored by some, reviled by others. Surprisingly, both sides criticized the same unconventional style. What makes its narrative so unique? Contemporary reviews used metaphors like literary roller coaster. The New York Times called it dazzling verbal pyrotechnics. The New Yorker described it as shouted onto paper. These critiques focused on formal innovation. The novel breaks conventional narrative structures. Two key innovations: linguistic style and narrative technique. The language mirrors Catch-22's circular logic. Superficially reasonable, yet ultimately absurd. Colonel Cathcart's democratic spirit manifests as equal contempt for all subordinates. This satirizes the Declaration of Independence's equality principle. Major's fathers specialized in not growing alfalfa for government subsidies. He expanded landholdings to not grow more alfalfa, all government sanctioned. Another example of systemic illogic, Yossarian proposes to a Roman prostitute who refuses because she's not virgin. "You're crazy," she exclaims. "Who would marry non-virgin?" This reflects 1940s Catholic Italy's chastity norms. The dialogue exemplifies Heller's tragicomic style. Personal desires clash with societal constraints through circular logic. Each absurd scenario reinforces the novel's central thesis. The narrative becomes self-referential parody of bureaucratic systems. But Yossarian didn't care, firmly retorting, "I would." The woman argued his proposal itself proved insanity, creating paradoxical logic. Their dialogue became chicken or egg paradox with no resolution. Language itself trapped them in nonsensical loops. This linguistic chaos mirrors the novel's topsy-turvy world. Here, sanity or madness, and order or chaos boundaries dissolve completely. Authorities enforce absurdity through plausible-sounding regulations. Individuals become rule-bound automatons without capacity for critical thought. More disorienting than language is the narrative structure. Unlike traditional linear narratives with clear story arcs, Catch-22 employs circular, non-chronological storytelling. Events don't follow cause-effect sequence or timeline. Chronological neighbors lack logical connection. Related events span chapters. Snowden's death, pivotal yet revealed through narrative shards. Early vague references. Where are the Snowdens from last year? Fragmentary memories, desperate radio cries, save him, save him. Full revelation comes and penultimate chapter's gruesome detail. Snowden lies dying with football-sized thigh wound, flesh and fabric fused. Paradoxical warmth or cold sensations heighten existential terror. Yossarian discovered Snowden's torso wound, intestines spilling out as he removed the flak jacket, realizing all efforts were futile. This epiphany cemented his view of human fragility, near matter awaiting destruction. Mission quotas supposedly increased gradually from 25 to 80, yet the narrative jumps between 45, 25, and 40 without chronological order. The disjointed timeline separates story events from narrative presentation. Characters die narrative first, but chronologically later, creating temporal confusion. This resurrection or death cycle challenges readers' comprehension. Readers must actively reconstruct timelines through fragmented clues. The narrative maze demands constant backtracking and reassessment. Yet overcoming these obstacles brings unparalleled satisfaction. Roland Barthes' concept of writerly text applies perfectly here, where readers co-create meaning through active textual engagement. Catch-22's chaos is meticulously designed disorder, an anti-novel with radial structure. All narrative elements orbit around the Catch-22 core. As the novel progresses, Catch-22's manifestations multiply while its irrational authority solidifies. Yossarian spirals through this vortex until escape becomes his only recourse. The finale slows narrative chaos for Yossarian's climactic confrontation. Captured without pass, he faces ultimate choice: compliance or court-martial. With Clevenger ornately all dead, the narrative finally decompresses. Yossarian decisively rejects the colonel's offer, choosing Sweden. The hopeful escape can't mask the continuing institutional madness. The island's machinery grinds on, patriots persecuted, killers rewarded. Sanity silenced, absurdity reigns supreme under Catch-22's enduring shadow. I look up and see profiteers, no saints or angels, just exploitation. This concludes our analysis of Catch-22's essence. Key insights available below. Let's preserve this dialogue.